So what happens when one citizen decides to take on the entire system? Well, today we're unpacking this really incredible formal complaint, one that was sent directly to the very top of California's justice system. We're going to break down what it says, who it's aimed at, and maybe most importantly, what it demands.
Okay, so right out of the gate, the author frames this in these incredibly powerful terms. He says, look, my case is not merely an academic grievance, it is a protest. A protest against what he calls a flagrant violation of his civil rights. That kind of language, wow, it immediately tells you this isn't just some standard legal paperwork. No, this is a personal stand against what he sees as a massive injustice. And that tone really sets the stage for everything that's about to come.
All right, so what is this document really? Let's just get the basic facts on the table so we're all on the same page.
So here's the who, what, and where. You've got one individual, Dr. Mohammed Fayyad, and he's appealing directly to the state's top lawyer, Attorney General Rob Bonta. And the subject line? Formal omnibus complaint. Basically, he's targeting a whole bunch of different people and organizations, all tied back to this one specific court case.
Now here's a really critical detail, one you just can't overlook. Dr. Fayyad is representing himself pro se. Now for those who don't know, that's the legal term for when you act as your own attorney. So think about that. You have a US citizen, a professor, a PhD, who is single-handedly trying to navigate this incredibly complex legal system, a system that's really built for entire teams of lawyers. I mean, that is just a monumental task for anyone to take on.
And all of this really brings us to this central conflict, the real heart of this complaint. It's basically a clash between two huge opposing forces.
See, on one side, you have this incredibly urgent, very personal crisis, an imminent eviction. But on the other side, there's this much broader, long-standing battle against what the author calls systemic injustice, a fight he says has been going on for years. And this letter, this complaint, it sits right at the explosive intersection of those two things.
And you gotta understand, the clock is absolutely ticking. This slide really drives home the urgency. That eviction notice isn't some far-off threat. It's a hard deadline, set for just a few days after this complaint was even written. You can feel that pressure on every single page of this document.
So with that context, with that pressure mounting, Dr. Fayyad lays out this whole web of allegations. They're distinct claims, but they're all interconnected, and they're aimed at multiple parties. Let's start to unpack the main ones. Okay, the first big claim is something he calls procedural abuse. What does that mean? Well, he alleges that the opposing law firm is basically weaponizing the legal process itself. He points to this massive request for documents, what he calls a bad faith document dump, and argues that its only real purpose is to totally overwhelm him, as someone who doesn't have a lawyer.
And he argues that this creates a completely impossible situation, like a catch-22. He claims the very people he's fighting are the ones who caused his financial hardship in the first place, which then makes it impossible for him to meet their huge legal demands. So he's saying it's not just harassment, it's a deliberate strategy to block him from getting justice.
The second major claim he makes is about discrimination. And you can see it right here. He draws this stark contrast between the super fast pace of his eviction process and what he calls the deliberate delays stretching over 19 months in getting the financial entitlements he believes he's owed. He's arguing that this huge difference in urgency isn't an accident. He's calling it a form of institutional and even racial discrimination. And this quote, man, it just perfectly illustrates how trapped he feels. He says the eviction law hangs like a sword over my head, while the statute of limitations is used to protect tyrants, racists, and criminals. It's a powerful way of saying he feels like the law is being applied in two totally different ways, one to punish him quickly and the other to shield the very people he's accused.
So who exactly is he pointing the finger at in this really extensive complaint? Well, get ready because the list of people and organizations he names is astonishingly long and diverse.
First up, you've got a whole array of state and local government bodies. We're talking everyone from the governor's office and the California Civil Rights Department all the way down to the Santa Clara County Superior Court and, of course, the law firms involved in the case.
But it definitely doesn't stop there. He also lists a significant number of major national corporations. You've got the property owner, the Irvine Company, and then some of the biggest names in banking you can imagine: Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America.
And believe it or not, the list goes even further, pulling in academic institutions, major publishers, and even the Wikimedia Foundation. By naming such a wide range of groups, he's doing more than just listing opponents. He's really trying to paint a picture of a systemic conflict, one that he believes has seeped into every single aspect of his professional and personal life. Okay, so after laying out this incredibly complex web of problems and accusations, the complaint finishes up with 3 very specific, very direct requests to the Attorney General. So what does he actually want to see happen?
His demands really boil down to these 3 key actions. First, he wants an immediate stay of execution to stop the eviction in its tracks. Second, he's asking for legal oversight, basically for the AG to launch an investigation into the opposing law firm's practices. And third, legal representation. This is him admitting, hey, I can't do this alone. I need help from the state to get a fair shot at justice.
And Dr. Fayad ends his letter by appealing to the very core of his rights as an American. He frames his citizenship not just as a piece of paper, but as a covenant of justice, a promise from the state to protect its people. It's a final, powerful plea for help, for intervention from the highest legal authority in all of California.
And really, that's where this whole document leaves us. It's the story of one person representing himself, making a formal plea against this vast network of incredibly powerful institutions. And it forces us to ask that fundamental question you see right there on the screen. What power does a single letter, a single voice, truly hold against an entire system?